Hmm. Kinda. Alright, just kind of looking it up. Passive perception, exactly that, passive. It's what the PCs are always using when not actively searching for something and doesn't use a roll of the die. To determine if you should use passive perception or allow a player to roll, listen to what they say their PCs are doing. This is back in like 2004. Hmm. RPG Stack Exchange? When you hide, there's a chance someone will notice you even if they aren't searching. To determine whether such a creature notices you, the DM compares your stealth check to the creature's perception score, which equals 10 plus the creature's wisdom modifier. That's the passive wisdom score. As well as any other bonuses or penalties. If the creature has advantage, add 5 for... Alright, and this is in the rule book. It was posted... four years ago. So I believe... is that still? I'm not sure to use passive perception or allow a player to roll. Listen to what they say during the PC. They say they're standing watch, keep an eye out, or something similar. They are actively searching so they can make a wisdom perception check. Otherwise, they are using their passive perception. But maybe, I feel like that'd be kind of cool. So, I mean, there's a potential that passive perception, if you have a high perception, then you just don't need to roll much. But if there's no way that it could be perceived passively, then that requires a check. Okay, I think that's a better way to do it. If they are, and a character that has high perception should keep that in mind. So that, and I should... But yeah, I mean, if a coin is under a pillow and they're not looking for it, there's no way that a high passive perception would notice that. But if they are looking for it, even if you have a high perception, you could roll terribly. You roll a 1, and you still have just a plus 6. That's still only a 7. Maybe you wouldn't find it. There may be tons of pillows. Okay, I think that'd be a better way of doing it. So in the future, I probably shouldn't, unless they are looking for stuff, I would go by their passive. And that would be a good way to keep the less perceptive characters on their feet, on their toes, because they would go for the most because they would be looking, but the ones that have higher perception can just kind of keep a general scan out. I think that's a good way of doing it. I'm gonna try and keep that in mind. But anyway, so like if they are not looking, it would be just their passive versus the stealth. So I mean that's kind of meta knowledge to keep in mind, that if you are a perceptive person, don't ask to roll unless you are... Okay, yeah. That's a better way of doing it. Okay, I'm getting it. So anyway, roll the 20. They all roll. I had them all roll perception, see if they figure out what was up. So and one of them succeeded. One of them rolled pretty well. That was actually our one player we didn't have around. But he was absent, so someone else rolled for a ranger, and he rolled pretty well. And he was able to figure that they were coming at him. So they were able to hide in the forest. They all hid pretty well, and they were able to dart away from the bandits. And so they were able to pretty much succeed at that encounter. Maybe I'll have them pop up again, different circumstances. But I mean, more room for more experience next time this encounter happens. Alright, and so then the kobolds in the barn. Kobolds take up residence in a farmer's shed. They have not hurt anyone yet, but are getting bolder with their antics. They can be scared away, persuaded to leave, or just killed, though this has repercussions in the future. So what happened was I was kind of expecting them to just go talk to them first, like everything, just leave everything, don't consider fighting, just go right in there. But what they decided to do was kind of set up an ambush. They were trying to lure them out. How they did that was that one of them went about, got and caught a skinny little rabbit, and they had them just like hit it out so that they would try and bait them out and just take them out one by one. They didn't know how many were in there. They knew that there were at least 3. So they did that, but the kobold that went out to try and grab the dead rabbit noticed that one of our guys, the fighter, was ready to bop him if they were ever to try and slip out of one of the big old notches in the thing. What do you call it? Like just a big hole in the barn. Well, more like a larger-ish shed. So what they did is that then they pretty much just had to bust in because their cover had been blown. So they just busted in the door, and the kobolds are ready. Like the 3 of them, 3 regular kobolds were ready with slings, or not quite ready. They were just about to be ready. They didn't really have too much time to ready their action. But so I had them roll initiative, and so the fighter ran in, and all 3 kobolds go on the same turn of the regular ones. They threw they threw their stones, and none of them hit. That was a really dangerous situation. The players are level 1. There was the potential that he could have been knocked out right away. That if all of them had hit and all of them rolled pretty good damage, he'd have been done. He'd have been unconscious and having to roll his saving throws. I mean, he probably wouldn't have died. He probably could have just gotten healed pretty easily. Probably. I mean, at these levels, there is a lot less room for anything. There's a lot less room for uh, for mess ups. You have so little health. Just by the basis of how much damage can be rolled on a die, even if it is just a D4, but in this case they were like D6s plus 2, I believe, for damage. So they well, thankfully he had high AC. It was really like a 1 in 4 chance that he could have gotten hit by any of them, so we got lucky. It could have gone very poorly, but instead it went very well. So then the other guy that attacked, who was a kobold inventor who has a whole bunch of nasty, gross stuff. He's got like pots of rot grubs, which are probably the most dangerous. They could actually do a lot of damage, but thankfully none of them even got hit. Like none of the party got hit. They got really lucky on that part. I mean, when you're at higher levels, like a crap ton of kobolds, if you have like high AC, probably not even relevant. You can just cut through them really, really easily. It'd have to be a lot of kobolds to do anywhere near the danger levels, even if you're at like level 5, probably. So and the ranger that was player is absent. He was he just like, even around the fighter who was kind of standing right in between the door and stuff, like shot an arrow, hit one of the kobolds, like the kobold inventor, in the chest, did half his health and damage, and he saw that, and then the fighter made an intimidation check, did pretty well. And so it's like the kobold knows, man, I'm in trouble. I'm in big danger. So he's got like one more hit like that and I'm dead. And there are at least 2 of these guys, and this guy's really scary, so run away. So they run through a loose board in the back and are able to escape. So mission accomplished. They didn't plan on killing them, and it's probably end up for the best that they did not. Succeeded in the thing perfectly. So now they are still in the town. They're still in death row, and so they've got a little bit of time before they I think they're gonna stay in the town at least a little bit. I also dropped the illusion. I alluded to the general store, and also they got the mysterious key. So that I believe I've got villages in Kimna, villages of Kimna. So we got a furbolg woman named Trinket, who has a general store, likes trading stuff. And now I want to have at least a couple more things that could happen here, in case they want to stick around at least a little bit. So now I'm just trying to think what kind of encounters would be cool. So what would be good things? What kind of encounters would be good here? Like, I would like to have at least 2 things. Maybe a larger one that could involve combat potentially. Maybe another that could be... well, we've already got Trinket, so that's one thing. So 2 more would be nice. Again, it's not a large thing. Death row. Let's see. So I'll just go session 3. Good song. Alright, travel from there. That is... I'll make that kind of a secondary thing. So, the party may visit Trinket. No, let's put Trinkets. What I can buy number of items, magical and otherwise. Buy and trade. Alright, that's one thing. I would like two more things before they potentially go for something, before they would head to the nearest town, which I think they would do probably the next day, which would be the second. If they spend one extra day in Dekro before going to Aelfed, they could get, like, there could be, like, bad things will happen if they do nothing about what's gonna be going on. But I don't know if that they'd even get there in that amount of time. So I'm gonna go to, let's look up the monster manual. I've got Volo's guide on hand a bit more immediately, so let's look through that and see if there's anything interesting we could maybe consider here. Boggles. Boggles are little bogies of fairy tales. Little boogies. They lurk in the fringes of the Feywild and are also found on the material plane, where they hide under beds and in closets, waiting to frighten and bedevil folk with their mischief. Boggle is born out of feelings of loneliness, materializing in a place where the Feywild touches the world in proximity to an intelligent being that feels isolated or abandoned. For example, a forsaken child may unintentionally conjure a Boggle and see it as a sort of imaginary friend. Boggle might also appear in the attic of a lonely widower's house or in the caves of a hermit. And this is a low-level creature, too. Like, let's go ahead and... bring up... Mobile Fight Club. And we will look up the Boggle. This could be, I feel like it could be something, I don't want it to necessarily be a combat encounter. It could be, but nothing too bad. We might even have a fifth player by this point. We'll see. I'll need to ask Steve about that one. Alright, so Irksome Pests. These are chaotic neutral, by the way. Not necessarily evil, but in no way good. Necessarily. Irksome Pests. Boggles engage in petty pranks to amuse themselves, passing the time at their host's expense. Boggle isn't above breaking dishes, hiding tools, making frightening sounds to startle cows and sour their milk, or hiding a baby in an attic. Although a Boggle's antics might cause stress and unintentional harm, mischief, not mayhem, is usually its intent. If threatened, a boggle flees rather than stand and fight. But yeah, anyway, I also want to elaborate just on the Kobold encounter. It is much safer for there's no reason why 4 kobolds would want to stick around and fight 4 big people that clearly have dangerous weapons. So I mean, it's like there's no reason to stick around. They would that kobold would only die. All right, so how many would be needed to make this if it was just a straight up fight? 4 for a medium encounter. They do like damage stuff. They don't really do much. They have like really weak attacks. +1 they hit. And all my guys have pretty high AC. I think the lowest one is like 16. So that would be like, it's a 1 in 4 chance that they'd hit. And the damage is 1d6 -1. So they can't do any more than 5 damage. More of a shenanigans sort of thing. I feel like having one of these so near to a kobold, though, like kobolds are kind of more towards the fantastical element side of this. I don't know if I want to have a boggle in the exact same town. But I feel like this might be a good one to have in a larger one. So let's go over to here and actually put down boggle infestation. Boggle in where would it be? Kimna? Alright, let's go ahead and put a check mark next. I'll just go ahead and strike it through. Do that. No idea what that did. I want to make sure that didn't like reset anything. Like that didn't reset my. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, a boggle I feel like is fun for messing with people, not a fight. And I would like them to have some kind of fight soon if they're gonna be messing with some sort of magical creature. But this is not gonna be one. This is something that I think would be good in the town. Oh no, not villages. Alright. Alright, let's go ahead and nice, break through, or can I? There, check mark here. Oh, wanna... Oh, damn it! I didn't mean to... I keep pressing refresh. I need to be doing undo. I feel like I normally use, like... Alright, let's go with this. Check. Damn it, no, only... I only want... Damn it! I pressed the refresh again, what? I'm stupid. I always feel refresh. I mean, I'm not used to undo being right there. Not used to just doing this with a browser. Try. Oh, why? Yeah, we'll just strike it through. What if I... More bullets? What if I do this? There we go. Cool. Check. That one's done. Corrupted sprites. Let's capture a homunculus. A group of bandits. No more than 5 people. They've done it, but they haven't finished it. I mean, they could still be around potentially. I'll still roll for it, but I'll need to. Okay. I think a good idea would be that they would wait they would actually be waiting this time. They wouldn't come from behind, but they could see it in advance, and they'll hold them up. And if they have good perception, then we'll see. Alright, so I think that would be a good one. So let's put that in. Session. Yeah, let's put that in here. Alright. The bandits that followed the party before. Alright. Even a small ruin. An outpost? What kind of like Oh, this place isn't this would have elven room. What kind of... Alright, there'd be elven ruins in this place. More so farther outward, though. I mean, farther into the village. into the island. But I mean, this is also kind of Metropolis. Maybe more of the stone buildings would have been in the forests, where out here would have been more the ones that would be destructible. Bushing. Alright, they will. I mean, they probably have to have a bit of a wider net because there's not like one road, and it's also pretty flat terrain, pretty easy to traverse any way you look at it. So, alright, so we got a wide thingamajigger. Got a wide swath that they would probably have to cover. So maybe one dude up in front. Like one dude. Alright. The optimal thing for what. Alright, so here's the idea. They would try and surround whoever is doing it. So it's like they would have 5 people, 5 bandits that are at 5. That would approximately make like 5 points. There'd be 2 from behind, 1 guy at front that'd be like, all right, give your stuff or we're gonna fire at you. All right, yeah, we'll say all there. Threatening them with the on the there. Left, right, and rear. And this is, of course, offset by the bandits getting low stealth and all that. Rear. So they pretty much have like a pentagon formation. Alright, but I feel like, alright, what should be a way that they're actually hiding? Should there be... Old Elven Watchtower? That's like nothing more than... Yeah, how about, Although. I'm just trying to think. It's because like there's a pretty wide area that anyone could possibly be going, and so the bandits would probably have to be going. But should there be someone on a horse? Should they all have horses? Would they have horses? Is it trying to be stealthy? That wouldn't really happen, would it? I mean, they could always just put their horses kind of away. Well, I mean, and it would also be difficult through the forest. I don't think they'd have horses. I think they would have like a wide area, and then they would have to then they would actively have to surround them. But let's actually not do this. is clear and paved, so they have the bandits have to cover a wide area and around any ground targets. Cover wide area and rush to their targets to surround them. This gives the party the time to escape if they wait for the bandits to congregate to reach them. All right, so yeah, it's like one dude will pop up and be like, wait, hold her right there, give all your stuff, or you're donezo. So it's kind of a bluff. So it's like they could just be like, no, and then leave quickly. And then they would either be chased, they would give chase. Yeah, let's put that down. Tension demands their valuables in a loud voice to alert his companions to that the target has been found and by time for them to reach to arrive. This also gives the party the time to escape. Yeah. Gives the party time to escape. Or attack the lone bandit. They call his bluff here. Alright, so that's a pretty grounded one. That's not in there. Not in the town, but it's between it. So I think that would be good. But so let's see about putting. Alright, now also I want to put go with, let's put in have a Gaog. Put it in there, encounters for Gaog. I think Gaog would be good. Uh, Boggle Father. That'll be an encounter. Put that somewhere. Then what else do we want to have? What would be an interesting thing to have in the town? Drakes. Guard Drake. Guard Drake is a reptilian creature created out of dragon scales by means of bizarre and grisly rituals. When trained properly, a Drake is obedient, loyal, and territorial. Makes it an excellent watch beast that can follow simple commands. Gifts from dragons. The ritual to create a Guard Drake was originally devised by the cult Tiamat, but has spread to other groups that are skilled in arcana and associated with dragons. Cooperation of a dragon is necessary for the ritual to succeed. A dragon typically provides its help when it wants to reward its allies or worshippers with a valuable servant. Ritual, which takes several days, requires 10 pounds of fresh dragon scales donated by the dragon allied with the group, a large amount of fresh meat, and an iron cauldron. When the process is complete, a half-sized egg emerges from the cauldron and is ready to hatch within a few hours. Eager to learn, new hatched Guard Drake imprints upon the first creature that feeds it, usually the one planning to train it, establishing an aggressive but trusting bond with that individual. Guard Drake is fully grown within 2 or 3 weeks and can be trained in the same length of time. One is the equivalent of a guard dog in terms of what it can be trained to do. The Guard Drake resembles the type of dragon it was created from, but with a wingless, squat, muscular build. Drake cannot reproduce, nor can its scales be used to make other Guard Drakes. Good to know? Alright, so sadly, that's a little bit of a weirder one, so don't know if that's going to be happening. Hobgoblin? I want something normal. Meanlock. Meanlocks are deformed fae that invoke terror and seek to destroy all that is good, innocent, and beautiful. Primarily live in forests, although they adapt well to urban and subterranean settings. Cap, Despawn, Shadow Mastiff, Son of Q's, Glenkali, Bagul, Rapper, and Rosette Mold. That could be pretty nasty, a level 1 creature. Old folk. Zard. Zart. Zart. Woodwode. T. I would also like to do something a little bit more interesting for the guy they met in the for the old man that's in this town that they helped figure something out, like something a little bit more interesting, so that he's like, oh yeah, that guy, instead of just old man with an out of place southern accent. What if he was a warlock? What if he was a warlock? What if he was a sorcerer and he didn't know it? I mean, I kind of don't want that to just kind of show up. What if he was a martial arts master? Yo, Neogi. That's always cool, Neogis. Space slavers. More call. Mind wit. What if he has a guard drake? Why wouldn't he just send the guard drake in to get rid of the kobolds, though? That's kind of the question. What if he is actually the cleric? Or priest? He'd be a lot more powerful than the other guys. He would say leveled up. Like, let me actually get the monster manual out. I've only got the Volo's guide. Alright, what do we got in the monster manual? Maybe a cool thing for this guy to actually be. It doesn't even need to be. I mean, I can't really think of a very interesting backstory for Old Man. Or he could have something interesting about him. That, he could be more. He could give a backstory to the island, the locale. What would have changed over the period, over his lifetime? Like in the 60s. He could be a berserker. The druid. A little guy. I don't really know if I want to make magic. I feel like it shouldn't be something magical, because if it's just a random dude that can do magic, that's I want this to have a bit of a more of a low magic feeling. Alright. Brainstorm backstory for this guy. Something that gives flavor to the world. Alright, where did I actually elaborate on the guy a little bit? I gave him him and his wife and his kids' names. He's only 60. What would have happened in the past 60 years? Alright, so we got them. So they are... Yeah, these are the kids. Alright, what else? Okay, what would be a good backstory for this guy? I'm just gonna create a new page. And should also think about language when when we're talking here. Like, why would they know the? Well, how long has this place been controlled by the? How long is this controlled by the Ramin Empire? These people be descended. At least this guy would be. Would it be more Elvish? Those dialects? Good. My got a thing for this as well. And under geography, Jack Fan. Alright, this is under culture. I think I started in here. I'm sure. Oh, language. That's not even in anyone's subfolder. Okay. Alright, this is something that could definitely use elaboration. And I'll just make a new document. Well. This is what I have working on language stuff. That didn't work out so well. Yeah, there we go. Stuff like that. Alright, so this is the common language. So there need to be like a kind of combination between some Elvish. I mean, if I'm even gonna come up with a new language, I kind of have to. Because, like, unless I want to say the whole island, like all the islands are controlled by the Empire, which is entirely possible. It would make things easier, certainly. Let's back to that. Yeah. And also Sylvan is not under the other one, so this is actually like the no. Like this. There we are. So I want to make other kind of sub-languages. Like maybe one that's... Maybe it could just be easy and say that like Valish is... like that. High Elvish and Valish. And Valish is the kind of mutually intelligible with Elvish. But Elvish itself is, yeah. Alright, so I think either this guy is... Either he speaks for Mian, or just all the people in the... Maybe you could be... He could be a missionary himself. I'm trying to think of time here as well. Go. Under common. That's kind of a weird one. It's supposed to be like that. It's supposed like this is common, but it's like a different thing. Dwarvish. How I have things set up. Should Dwarvish be related to Giant? In fact, this should... That should be under that. Question is, should Dwarvish actually be under Giant? Anyway, I think actually I'll just save this. Languages. Move this to Memories of Dawn. Characters, non-player characters. Move here. Alright. Party. Tear it off. Kobolds. And... Alright, we also don't need that. So what could be a backstory for this guy? He's 60 years old. We want to say that he speaks perfect Remian. He could be a settler from Belenium. Please spell the one that I made. Well, I'll just say, alright. Beam in the... He's settled in. I'm even forgetting what the name of the town is. It was, yeah. Yeah, or, gonna spell it right, damn it. Dechrau. Alright. Belenium as well. And married. Actually, no, I mean, he is very... He should be local. I just kind of determined. That name. That name is not a Belenium name. Alright, how about... Alright, I think he should be of the same religion Steve's character is. He... You can follow Kasef when he was they. Maybe a short time ago, but I don't want to say like how long is. There wouldn't have been extensive conversion. Oh, I think it would be good if it was a. But how old do I have? I didn't actually give him a name yet. I really need to come up with a name. Let's have actually. Alright, I should also come up with stuff to fill out Gale. I doubt they're going to get there in the third session at the rate that they generally go at, but I think it's pretty good. But it's would the priest there be the first person to actually try and convert the area? It's only been already. How long do I have it of being all the Empire? This I can look up. A different thing. It's 300 years. It's not a long time, but it's quite a while. $300. Would this area have been? Well, this area probably wouldn't have even been conquered. Like, this island is not really that important. And even then, like there is no active governmental conversion. No active support for missionaries by the government. Generally a pretty agnostic government. At least the Ramian Empire was. Hmm. $300. I'm trying to think of a point of reference. Like, when did... I'm gonna look up... Oh, man. Like, when did it was for sort of a Elfman 3. All right. So many people from Ireland, the first millennium. All right. Hey, Hydro Phoenix. Onyx, thanks for joining me. Currently, kind of looking something up really quick. Alright. Okay, so right now I'm doing a little bit of flavoring for an NPC that I would like to have. That he's just not an old man that gave the party a quest. I want there to be a little something to remember him by. Alright. If you have any questions, let me know. Like, you just started as a player, I'm guessing? I've been playing since about 2010, so... decent bit of time. Decent bit of time I've been playing the game, so... yeah, I'm just streaming some campaign preparations to see, just because I like to stream generally most days, and this is, I don't stream the game itself, I have not been, this has just been a local game, but I want to stream and I want to prepare for it, and this helps me do both. So, shortly after they were married. Yeah, and that's also how character is a half-elf. So that would have been a long time ago, though. So 40 years. All right, cool. Yeah, I've been DMing since not too much longer after I started playing. I only played about 3-ish sessions before I was like, okay, if no one else is gonna run the game, then I will, sort of thing. I really like making the world, so I'm pretty happy being a DM. Though I haven't had too much experience as a player, really. I've only had a few characters that I've actually had as players. Gotta take initiative. I really learned that somewhere around college. Like, do it. Be affirmative. Action is generally, and this is true in life as well as in D&D. Action is generally better than inaction. Early out there, they were married. Although that would have been a long time ago. Half elves live a long time, but not nearly as much as regular elves. Yeah, exactly. Someone has to break. Someone has to be the first one on the beach. Alright, they say that half elves live to be like. They live much longer than humans, however, often exceeding 180 years. It's the same rate. Okay, 180. He could be a much older person then. He could be like 60, but he's... I mean, it's, you have complete control as a DM, remember that. So, as far as like experience in quests, I generally like just know, try and keep in mind what the threshold is, at what point they will level up, and give them experience for encounters that they complete, whether it's defeating the enemies, finishing a quest, even if it is non-violently. Maybe just kind of think of what, like, this is a tool that I found rather recently called Kobold Fight Club, kobold.club, up here. This measures out like all of the experience you get from if you fight, say, 4 boggles. This would be a medium encounter. If it is against 4 level 1 players. You can just kind of select. They want to fight 4 boggles and a badger. 4 boggles and 5 badgers, for some reason. How much experience they'd get from it. I don't know what the difference between total and adjusted XP is. I would just go with total. I think like adjusted is for when it would go up to another tier of difficulty. Alright, thanks, man. Yeah, if you have any questions, I would be glad to help the best that I can. This is not my normal thing that I do. This is kind of more of a secondary. I play a lot of grand strategy games, but I will probably end up doing D&D prep once, maybe twice a week. I don't know. Maybe even more, depending on how I'm feeling. I just like to stream whatever I want to at the moment, and this is it. Alright, so, 4 boggles and 8 badgers. How about just no boggles and 16 badgers? A murder of badgers. 16 badgers will take out your 4 level 1 players. Alright, so a DM screen is not terribly necessary. It's kind of nice to have all your stuff behind a screen so that the players can't intentionally or unintentionally see whatever you have around. So, like, if you want them to be surprised by a dragon, it may not be best to just have, like, you don't want to have to, like, hide your dragon stats under a whole bunch of stuff. And, like, a game board, like a grid, is useful. It's pretty useful for encounters, especially dungeon crawling. If they, well, I don't know about especially, but I mean, if the more complicated an encounter can be, the more complicated dungeon can be, the more useful a grid will be. Because you're just going to get more and more things that you have to keep in mind, and you don't want to have to think like, alright, here are the... So the 2 kinds of these kobolds are over here, the 3 kinds of these kobolds are over there doing something else. And if you don't have a visual then it's yeah, an issue. And it's also easier to know, to be able to measure the difference between where the given, but where something is. And it's like saying something is 60 feet away might be more abstract than having the actual squares. Sometimes if it's a very simple encounter, you won't even need to have, you can do all this theater of imagination, theater of the mind, and you don't have to think about, and you don't need to have markers for everybody or have a grid. That 4th edition, it was pretty much expected that you would have a grid because it was more of a war game in a lot of ways than a role-playing game. But yeah. So let's just let's come up with a background. Just hey. Also, I'm basing a lot of this off of some old Eberron lore, old Eberron religion lore. Edition books. The biggest campaign? How many players? So I have played... I've had 6 players before. I haven't had 6 players in a long time. 6 is kind of the maximum that I go for. If I start going over that, that's quite a lot to deal with. Especially if you're newer at it. Like, if you're really good, like really, really good, and all your players are pretty good, then it may be, you may be able to handle more. Right now, I've only got 4 players. I might have 5. All right. How do you mean questioning everything? Like 3 people I feel like is kind of a light party. Like there's a lot more that can be done. Like, I mean, it's a lot. I feel like that kind of really restrains how, like, what a party can do. So generally I would like to have 4. But I mean, you could hypothetically even just have 1 player. All right. Not necessarily. That's I mean, it is first of all, it is a cooperative game. So it was never made to be just like one DM and one player. It's about how... How to explain it? That eventually, once you get so many people, it becomes unwieldy. Like, you want every player to have at least one moment to shine in any given session. It'd be like, all right, that was my moment. That was my time that I was useful. It could be a really good hit they make against a monster. It can be one really fun encounter with an NPC. It could be a good bit amount of time focused on that character's backstory, things like that. And all of that becomes more difficult as the game goes on, as the game has more and more people. But the mechanics of it become more difficult the fewer people there are. It's like, in a combat, you're not gonna do so well. Like, you have to really make a pretty weak encounter for a low-level party if they have... just, like, at any point. Because a lot of damage can be dealt to a player really quickly, and they don't have much health at level 1. And of course you could remedy that by just starting at a higher level. And just like 4 goblins can almost be as dangerous as 4 players at level 1. I hope that helps out. Alright, I mean, I appreciate any questions you would have or any input you have as well. Like, I'm streaming this partly because I would like input. If anyone has any thoughts about how I go about this. So, okay, let's see. I want this this priest. He's a half elf. So he's lives to be about like half elves live to be about like 180. 180 years old. So if he's I mean, it could have just converted them recently. I think it'd be good if the half-elf is young. Priest is young, and he's only just recently come. That'd be good. That'd be good. Along with many others in the village years before, a visit from the... I mean, this is also not making him as interesting. Okay. I appreciate it. I appreciate being glad I can be a helpful person. Didn't mean to open that up. messing with Twitch a little bit. I always like to have a stream on in the background. Father, he should be. Where should he be from? I don't want him to be local. I think he should. It'd be cool if he was farther away. But not even right there. I've been streaming since 2015. Alright, sorry. You don't need to stream all that often. You just stream whenever you feel like. It's harder to build up a following if you don't stream as often. But you never know. Some people have started streaming far later than I did, stream far less, and have far larger followings than I do. I generally stream kind of niche things. And I don't know, some people just have much better luck than me, I guess. Or maybe they're just better. Never know. You could start streaming and have a lot more people watch whatever you're doing than me in a much short amount of time with far less people, with that far less streaming. I generally like to stream pretty much every day. I don't have much of a life. Alright, where is the elf, the half-elf beast from, whose name I have not thought of yet? Yeah, it is a lot of luck. Alright, I appreciate it. I think it would be good if he's from the Isles, but not Millennium, and not... He should be from... I should bring up the map. I should bring that up. All right. So here is a map of the region, the archipelago that this takes place in. So the party right now is over about here on this island. So I think I want this guy to be from somewhere around one of these areas. Not there, but maybe here. I want to also bring up where was that one file? I worked on a file for Vulture. No. Where did I put it? Sorry, I'm trying to find something. Okay, okay, I found it. Alright, I think I have an updated version. Actually on Google Docs. I'm sort of transferring all my Google Doc, my Word processor files onto Google Docs. And so I'm basing a lot of the stuff, a lot of the like the different kinds of groups of people. I'm basing this whole world in this I'm just like on historical real life world. So I'm basing a lot of the cultures on the on real life cultures. So it's like this area was predominantly controlled by elves for a very long time, and so the the humans that came to live here were influenced a lot by the elvish culture, which is a sort of, it's eventually sort of making like Celtic sort of culture. So then like Romanian, Aurelian remnants are sort of like Romano-Britons. Romanian is like Rome, Aurelian the area that's around. Well, I think I want him to be our half-elf priest to be alright. Okay, I want to color. Okay, hold on. This is what I'm looking at. I forgot to switch this. So this is it over here. This is the file that's I'm basing a lot. These are just this is a pretty diverse area culturally. So I'm having like different segments of invaders, of just like peoples from in medieval and late classical Britain be in this. So it's like Normans, like these are pretty, Normans wouldn't historically be here at the sort of congruent period, but here they are. I kind of want to put them in here. So it's like, it's possible that all these groups will be somewhat distinct from each other throughout all of it. Or maybe one could become dominant. This could be determined by humans entirely, by the player characters. The humans that are playing the game. Alright, so I would like him to be sort of one of these. He'd be like one of the Anglo-Saxon invaders. So I want to have... So this purple is already what's controlled by Valenium. Gotta move some of these books away. Put them somewhere else. I don't have much room. Almost 2 o'clock, but it doesn't feel that late. Okay. This is also... But I'm not fully coloring this in because it's not really that necessary at the moment. Marking areas that are controlled by whoever. I think maybe it'd be good. Let's get a darker blue. Or Rains. What's up, Athon? How you doing, man? Yeah, there are some cities right over here. But this is on the way to and from. Yeah, so they got these there'll probably be some around here. There's a lot of room in here that I'm not saying that there aren't things in here, but this is just what I have at the moment. I mean, I've been working on this for a while, but it's not the cities as much. It hasn't been as necessary. I appreciate the help. Just want to mark all of these. Yes, I've worked on what the land looks like quite a bit. I want to make it look realistic. Or look realistic enough. I shouldn't have it be blue, because blue is very similar color to the water. Maybe a darker blue. Yeah, I feel like that's fine. Gotta remember, this is political in the water. Whatever. But Rains, I'm already using purple for this sort of area. I mean, if I fully color this in with blue, then it'd still be a problem. How about just let's make this area is all red. Of course. I'll get all those colors. Yes, the campaign has already begun, and it's right over here. It's on this island. Like, the party right now is about right there. Making their way to here in order to set off on wherever else they want to be heading. Exactly, that's what I want to do. They have some backstory things that they could go for, and also they were attacked by a dragon at the beginning. So they can go for the main quest that they started doing, or they could try and find the dragon. However they want to do it. Yeah, that's a good one. I like that name. I like island cities. It's very central, it'd be very kind of trade-based. I believe that would also be... There would also be this. I'm not gonna mark capitals yet, necessarily. I probably don't need to do that. I'll just say to the party what the capitals are. Maybe I'll just make them stars instead of dots. I'm not even gonna bother with larger cities. I'm just going with population centers of interest. I know what I want to approximately, like, what city will be larger than another. Like, Gaelg is only like 250 people, but it's the largest city on the island, so it's of import. Like, regionally, locally. Yes, that's why I got a dot. Now, these are not necessarily cities of any certain population, just places that are important for the party. I'm actually gonna... I wish I had made... I kind of wish I had the background be blue. That I wouldn't have the background as the water. Yeah, it's like I think I had it before that the background is actually just blue. I think I might have flattened this at some point. I might have put them together, not thinking that this would be a big problem. But I mean, I'm just gonna turn off geography. Just remember that this is the political map mode. That's my paradox. strategy gamer lingo coming out. Yeah, I got Imperator Rome. I'm enjoying it mostly so far, but I mean, there are just a lot of issues that I mean, bigger things about the game that just kind of bug me. Just how the magic points are so weird. I think they'll fix a lot of the stuff. Like, they're already kind of fixing some of the things with, like... So with, these can be... That's what I'm saying. It's just like they're already fixing things like stability. It's not gonna just be like, I have nowhere else to put my religious points, so I'm just gonna crank my stability up to 3. Hooray. They're already gonna change it to be like a scale of 0 to 100, 50 kind of being the base, and that you can use the religious points to increase the stability over time, which is kind of nice. I really hope that they make it more difficult to convert things culturally, or at least like, culturally and religiously make it take more time. Maybe also just have less of a penalty, maybe? I don't know. Alright, I'll say. So these guys are kind of like the more Anglo-Saxon sort of guys. That's the red. The blue are the sort of Norman-esque. Britons will be... yeah. Like, this one... This one I'll make a light blue, and they're just showing up. It's gonna be sort of a... that. But they've occupied these only in the more recent months. I have a much larger map that I have already made. I'm a big world builder. Should have like this. But I've got a whole lot of other things already made. I've got other continents, other cultures, other regions already generally made. This is probably going to be the one that I'm giving the most detail, because this is one that the campaign is actually taking place in. This is actually not even really political. This is more ruler culture. Culture, a dominant. Because it's like. Because all of this is not ruled by the same country. That's more. It's a number of kind of petty kings doing that. Alright, and this is. These are like dwarves. Pretty much the only majority dwarven people around. Maybe a few smaller dwarven kingdoms or whatever in it, but it's probably mostly going to be. It may just be one as well. I don't know, it's not Songyan. I really like it. It's like a happy, warm, Christmassy sort of feel. I could like winter that much all the time. This one should be of a more... I want more of the half-elf ones. No, actually no. No. Norse is actually this lighter blue. They are just beginning to make their way attacking into this area. A Norse-like culture. And Norman is this blue down here. And again, like, Norman alongside Anglo-Saxons, alongside, like, a very Romano-Britain sort of culture. Like, it's all kind of anachronistic, but it's fantasy. So, there we go. No, not that color. I don't even want that color. I'm gonna have you have like the eastern part of this, but not the whole island. This realm actually is more unified. This is a singular state. And it is just cursor size, but that is exactly what it is. Like, where this is more a number of smaller guys. This is a singular ruler. This is kind of more loosely under it, but as a kind of more just... It's almost a... I mean, it's governed by the same folks. Maybe... We kind of put this over here. How about one of distinct greens? Let's rename this. It's not really political, it's cultural rule. It's a ruling culture. This is not even necessarily majority, it's not even, I mean, it's just who's running all that. Alright, this is gonna be sort of the more Celtic style humans. Humans that have been influenced by elven culture far more than the imperial something stuff there. What's up, Rosia? Thanks for joining me. Maybe. I haven't actually determined why this is so broken up like this. I just kind of made it. I think it looks cool, so that's really about all I got. There may have been some kind of catastrophe thousands of years ago. Huh, I might write that down. Astrophoba tectonic plate shift. I'll keep that in mind if I ever decide to make a reason for this happening. Dude, Celts colonize super well. You've played Imperator. The Celts are freaking everywhere, man. And these guys have been here a much longer time, is the thing. Alright, then I also want to have... go with... Hey, new type, how you doing? Go with a... is this distinct enough? Yeah, that's very distinct. You can be kind of... around the coast. Yeah, I'll write that down. The asteroid followed by tectonic plate shift. Alright. So these are, like, sort of... just imagine this as a sort of political map that's more about what the culture that is dominant in any given region. I'm not filling it in completely because that would take a lot of time. I'm just kind of using this as an indicator for myself. So the purple is sort of like a more Latin sort of culture. This is it's a more Romano-British sort of culture. Red is like very Anglo-Saxon sort of culture. This blue is like a Norman sort of area. This teal is like invading Vikings that have just recently come to control this. This, I guess you could call it a lime green, is like a very Celtic sort of normal, like native British sort of thing. And this, I guess you could call it more of a, what kind of green would you call this? Whatever this kind of green is, this is more of a Celtic Norman sort of mix. Seafoam? Probably seafoam, yeah. And just imagine if, like, somewhat Frankified. And just think of these as all like different degrees of Latin-like culture mixing with Germanic-like culture, mixing with Celtic-like culture. No, they are very, very far away. Like all the sort of nomads and samurai are the continent entirely different of this. Like this is essentially like a mix of all medieval British sort of cultures. Yeah, and these are just islands, not even continents. Yeah, this is Westeros, but properly proportioned. So, I mean, just imagine, like, this area is like a predominantly Latin culture with degrees of Celtic. This area is almost exclusively like Germanic, as is this. This is probably more, it's like, think of this as like maybe 80% Germanic, like 20% Celtic. These rulers are 100% Germanic. This area is like a Germanicized, it's like 50% German, 25% Latin, 25% Celtic. Over here, we've got like maybe, this is like that, but with more Celtic added into it. Like all this sort of sea foam around here. Imagine those little islands also have that. And this is just 100% Celtic. This is actually going to be exclusively Elvish. Alright, I'll name something Aethon. Don't know what. Might make it a character, but since you mentioned it, I'll go ahead and do it. And yeah, it is sort of like a Tolkien sort of thing. It's because it's when you think, oh, I'm doing a fantasy role-playing game. People just think instantly, they go to a sort of de facto normal, like, alright, this is just what fantasy is. Except you don't really realize the degrees of what the culture is in what fantasy is. Like, fantasy could be East Asian sort of culture. They normally think of as like just fantasy is by default a sort of Anglo-Saxon sort of thing. They don't think about what the culture was like before, what it is, how it came, like if there was ever an ancient empire, what was their culture like? Was it just more Anglo-Saxon as what it is now? That doesn't make sense. Oh yeah. George R. R. Martin, like Westeros is really weird. It's a massive landmass. It's huge. It's a huge continent that is essentially just a giant England. There is no way that that culture would actually be that uniform in an area that had been ruled, that had been lived in for that very long. The difference between the like the people in the north, like not the, like more like the Stark ruled area, like the north, not the north, but the north. Yeah, it's like that's more of a realistic way of how things happen. That the people in the north, Starks shouldn't speak the same language as like the people in King's Landing, realistically. Yeah, Dorne is a bit better, but at the same time, that's more like the difference between the very yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of land that really doesn't need to be that big. It's like, yeah, they're not Andals, but it's like they're first men, but then it's complicated, but not as complicated as it should be. Hey, how long did the Targaryens rule again before for Robert's Rebellion? 300 years? Like that probably wouldn't, in 300 years, I don't think English, like from that's maybe barely enough time. Barely enough time to make that the lingua franca. But even then, the landmass is huge. That's like, in the amount of time that Anglo-Saxon English to modern English, to make everyone speak it, it would have to be from like, imagine that actually happening if it was like all of Europe suddenly being conquered by the Romans and everything from Iberia to like what would be modern Russia in only 300 years becoming all speaking Latin. And it's not even, yeah, I don't know. He's not doing it. That wasn't his main focus, so whatever. It works well enough as a fantasy thing. Not bad, but it's unrealistic in a place where dragons exist, so. It'll turn up a little bit. So this is a playlist of mostly OC remix songs. Alright, get another green for where the elves live. Like, actual elven rule. This is the only elvish state. It's rather insular. Maybe there's some humans around, but it's probably a lot of humans actually, but I like this to be an actual elven ruled area. And that was only in Italy, right? Like, you're not even talking conquest of Gaul and Iberia and all that. Alright, so, anyway. A little purple? I think there. I think I want this island to be, like, sort of mysterious. Like, this is ruled... They say this is ruled by the elves, but they really don't have much contact with the rest of the world. They don't have, like, occasionally, maybe some traders, but they don't even really talk that much about it. Something like that. I think it'd be cool. But this is sort of more unexplored place. Maybe even mythically, it's ruled by the elves. Oh, it could possibly be ruled by the elves. They don't have any more territory. Okay, I think I'm seeing what you're getting at. Maybe. I'm just thinking, like, what would be... Like, what would be a realistic way for this to have happened? Alright, so at the earliest history, everything would have been ruled by elves. Except for up here. Everything would have been primarily ruled by elves, but also the dwarves live in their underground cities. That's really where the largest populations are in here, in their mountain cities and the like. Up here, are sort of the Scottish, like, sort of folk. The Elven cities, the Elven city-state. I've called this Nelaxine. This is CS Guitar 89, not an OC remix thing. Like, you want me to message you the name for the Elven city here? Is that what you mean, Rosia? Razia? There's some forest kind of tribes, but there are also, like, cities that are, like, kind of built within forests. They don't really... I don't see them tearing down forests as much. They actually just build them, like, almost in between, sorta. Maybe they cut down some trees, but, like, sort of weave them through it. Alright, so, let's just think about this a bit more realistically. Alright, so, once upon a time, like 1,000+ years ago, this was all ruled by elves. So, it was only until, like, a period of war between elves and dwarves that dwarves were able to get a foothold up here, actually coming out from their underground citadels in order to kind of dominate this area. Before then, it was mostly ruled by elves. So elves are still around. We're still around. But dwarves pretty much took all of this, and I should... Let's also make... And also humans lived among, like, they moved around here a whole bunch, but they didn't really have much of the political power up until... Oh, that's actually a good question. When would they have lost it in parts that are not elven ruled? That's a good question. We'll think about that in a second. Alright, so we've got the elves that they were mostly kicked out of here. So then there was a period where the Ramian Empire became the first real human empire in this continent. Like, big... Well, at least in this half of the continent. Sort of western half. That would be the source of this. This is... where was... the Empire, or what exactly? Under the elves and the azure sky. Rich ports to harvest the goods of the sea. There's rare and powerful magic artifacts. Living near giant trees. Grants them natural American. Yeah, stuff like that. Gonna make a random okay. So this area is sort of like the northwestern part of the continent. The old empire is based much farther to the south. I haven't actually determined what I want the state of the continent to be, really. Sort of want the party, like a different campaign to do that. Hold on, I'm doing a couple things here. Kind of making a random note sheet with your suggestions that I'm thinking are kind of nice. Okay. All right, so yeah. Then the question is, what happened to the elven civilization that would make it so that they are not dominant over all of them? What kicked the elves back, if they should even have been kicked back at all? Certainly part of it is... I was not expecting to be more of a world-building thing. I was thinking that maybe they could have, like, their power base could have been destroyed by the Ramian invasion. Like, even though they weren't able to colonize everything, that, I mean, elves, the majority of the people here were probably human. You know how elves are quite infertile. They don't have too many babies. If they did, there'd be tons because elves take forever to die. So I feel like it's much easier to cut off the head of the snake with an elven ruler, with elven rule, but with a human power base. And let me bring up my... I've got a very long... I've got some history. Kind of set apart here. I have the history of the world divided up into different ages that are all approximately 500-ish years long. So, like, prehistory pretty much ends after dragon empires, rule by dragons across the world is defeated primarily by... So, I mean, and the age of... calling this the Age of Origin. There are ages that happened before this, but this is pretty much where history begins. At this point, states of mostly pretty small states. Not too much fighting, definitely a possibility. A few elf eggs. Oh, dragons too, yeah. That is kind of what happens. So, the Remian Empire begins as a rebellion against elven dominance. And, yeah. And so they rise up, and part of the, like, kind of an unspoken cornerstone of Remian culture is the fear of elves. Because they live forever, and they are rather in tune with magic. So, like, they kind of make a racial, a racial hierarchy with humans above elves, because elves are, like, they have that history of them being enslaved by elves. Or not even enslaved, just subservient to elves. Maybe to some degree enslaved. So the humans throw them off, and they pretty much conquer all of the elven land. And this is also... Okay, well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself a little bit. And this is all just kind of helping me think as well. So the Age of Origin was... Think of that as, like, early Bronze Age. Like, some more powerful regional powers. Nothing like huge intercontinental stuff. Not really feeling this one right now. Too ballady. So, like, and that's... Think of that as, like, lasting about 500 years. Actually, no, more like 1500. Like, early Bronze Age. And then, followed by the Age of Blades. Which is where... During the first age, the Age of Origin, where Elven and Dwarven empires started to grow, and it's by the Age of Blades, that is when they started to clash. Then, of course, elves would fight amongst themselves, dwarves would fight amongst themselves, but there was also a great deal of violence the later on it goes. I mean, if you want to try, but of course, this is also after the... Like, that empire has already fallen by the point where this campaign is taking place. If you want to be, actually, Yeah, I mean, if you want to create elven dominance again, that it would be your character's prerogative. So then the Age of Blades is when it's like a great deal of conflict lasts for about 1,000 years. Only 1,000 years? That's only a couple generations of an elven lifetime. Imagine your life being just surrounded by war and how exasperating that could be. Even dwarves, they live a long time. Not as long, but still, like, a few generations live in this sort of conflict. And then eventually it breaks down, like these large elven and dwarven empires shatter into smaller kingdoms, city-states, independent tribes, leaving room for new races to rise. So this is where dwarves would slink back into their underground cities, don't have as much influence on the outside. Elves would go to more localized kingdoms. So let's think about that. So that would be, like, all of this would have been controlled at one point by elves. And then dwarves during the Age of Blades would have popped up here, maybe around the rest of the places. But the elves would be dominant over all this. Dwarves here would still actually continue to rule this. And then maybe there's some smaller kingdoms, even just smaller kingdoms of dwarves up around here. It's not really totally unified. Maybe more unified later. Oh, like elves would be invaders. That would, like, space invaders. That's kind of cool. That I do want there to be other planes, other worlds that kind of interplay with it. Not other dimensions, but other planets, in a sense. Yeah, I mean, it's like there are elves around. Alright, and so, let's see, what else then? So then, after the Age of Blades, the Age of Imperium, which is when the Empire, the Ramian Empire, first defeats their ruling elf, like their elf rulers, and then, like, forms an empire, pretty much taking control of all of the, like, elven influenced lands. And then when the Ramian Empire falls, then, yeah, you get what you got here. Then, okay, let me keep thinking here. Yeah, I'm thinking that the the Ramian Empire, like, came in. This area was maybe a number of smaller elven kingdoms, city-states. Maybe they even were predominantly more tribal. They were not in the cities as much. Yeah, I think that would be the point of that would be it there. Is that they were more regional, but they were more tribal elven civilization at that point. It had kind of regressed to the more wood elfy sort of things. Though there probably were high elf cities too. And they were all made to most of them were forced to submit. And although, actually, maybe it would be more interesting if because I don't really want to say that this whole area was conquered by the Rameans. The war there. Let's say that there was actually maybe a number of cities, like a number of maybe city-states, regional powers that united to try and defend against the Ramean Empire. Some of them may have been more tribal, some of them not. But I mean, there are so many more that the Ramean invasion was not kind to the elves, and like so many, and they maybe actively targeted rulers because the majority of the armies were likely to be human. So they kind of like took out officers, and it left a power vacuum that was not able to be filled by more elves, and so humans rebelled. And so like all of these areas, even if they may not have been controlled by Ramia itself, they still did their, like, so they noticed the lack of power from the elven rulers and were able to fight back. And the elves weren't even necessarily, they may be characterized by Rameans as being tyrants, though we'll say that it varies. Like, some were tyrants, but the majority are relatively acceptable rulers. Perhaps the ruler that ruled the Rameans before their independence, that one particular elven ruler was a tyrant, and they overthrew him or her. These are not uncolonized. That these are more. They are not in play as much. Like, this is the continent. This is just a cutout of a larger map, and I didn't. Yeah, it's just a cutout of a larger map, and I didn't want to actively cut off this. I'm not gonna bother coloring this. If the party really, really wants to go down here, I can do it for them, but yeah. The baby islands, like, these little things, they could probably, like, so small, it's almost too small to even color in. We'll just say that they're the same as the Hiberno, Norman sorta half-elves. Like, these are half-elves. A lot of intermarrying between a lot of the elves around there, and actually, it'd probably be a lot of elves and humans this is actually kind of getting a little confusing. How do I want to... Like, this would be mostly human. Well, we don't even need to say that it was like majority human, but enough humans that they would like human groups that they would want to rebel for independence, for their own self-rule. Like, and just elves take more and more of a back seat and just become how do you I don't think how this would work. Alright, yeah, thanks for hanging out, dude. Have a good night. Really glad to see so many people showing up for this. Normally a much more snug, much quieter sort of stream, but I'm really glad to see so many folks. Glad that all you guys could show up, whether you're lurking or have headed out already or whatever. And if you're enjoying this, I'd really be glad to see you all again. Wanna follow the channel? Hey, J Dude, how's it going? Oh, thank you. I'd try my best. Not that I really need to color all this in, but yeah, this is just the idea of it. Okay. Actually, the logical thing would be more like these would be half-elven communities, and these would be more majority human. Yeah, that would make more sense. Like, over time, this would be more half-elven, but also with a lot of human, maybe some elves, where this would be a lot of humans and elves. And oh, it's like, yeah, it's the proportions. Think of, yeah. That would make more sense if this was more humans above the half-elves and elves, where here are more like half-elves and elves and humans together. Yeah, I think I'm gonna... Alright, I'm gonna switch back to this. And make more sense if... Alright, so, I mean, like... Britons would probably be, like, a lot of half-elves. Like, humans and half-elves primarily, but at that point, probably not as many elves. Where these guys be human rule over Baelish, which is kind of like a Celtic way of saying elves. So that's essentially these guys conquered by these guys. The ones that are primarily Norman, like these guys probably conquer the ones that are more Anglo-Saxon. Okay, I think that's cool. So in the way that the sort of Baelish, which is Celtic culture, is sort of pushed out already by the by the Enweric, which are like Germanic sort of invaders. Which is why it's both Anglo-Saxon and Norman, as well as the Vikings, which are all Enweric. And that is a name that I looted from, I stole it from one of the older, like a pretty old D&D setting that hasn't really been touched in a while. I think it was called Birthright. Actually, yeah. I like taking a lot of the ideas for cultures from D&D settings that already exist, and that has a number of them that are kind of like sort of like, there's one that's British, one that is or like a Russian Slavic, one that's very Scandinavian, very Norse, things like that. So this is kind of just at the like, let's actually Evan culture influenced humans and half-elves. Armenian, Aurelian, remnant humans. If I were to do percentages, I don't want to do that. Like, this is, the humans here are very Armenian, which is Roman influenced. That's the purple places. Anglo-Saxon. How much? The Anglo-Saxons that invaded, how much culture? How culturally influenced were they by the Celts? I feel like it would probably be quite a bit. But a lot of the stuff here probably only been... How much time did it take for... like... I don't know, it's like the cultural melding, but there are still probably communities. Okay, there are certainly no communities of humans and half-elves in this sort of... in those sort of culture-ruled groups. And those are pretty much the same at that point. Like, it has been 300 years. Like, it is about at that 300 years point that the first Endwaric invaders showed up. 300 years. Was that enough to make... like, when the Anglo-Saxons invaded first in, like... the Anglo-Saxons... Anglo-Saxon invasion was in Anglo-Saxon settlement of Britain. Okay, so this new appears traditional. Alright. Apparently, like, 440 something. Certainly by 500, I think. Like well, even then, Anglo-Saxons were pretty intermingled with, like, Brits. Romano-Britons. I mean, they were really just very separate communities for quite a while, I believe. Oh, hey, Ready Market, how's it going? I don't think I will be. Like what? Friday, I'm gonna be going to see. Gonna be seeing Endgame. Yeah, it's like 400s. It's about that time. And when was the Norman invasion? That was 1066. So that's 500 years. At what point? At what point were there like, was England clearly Anglo-Saxon? When could he really call some? No, not English people. That's much later, until the Normans showed up. I'd say in 300 years he could have a pretty solid power base from the Enweric invaders, but not... But not like... Yeah, there'd be intermingling, but probably not enough to be like, hey, the old guys are gone, now we're here. Look up British 3. Great Britain's like yeah. Around 600, 7 principal kingdoms had emerged, being the so-called period of the Heptarchy. Okay. Well, that's only a couple hundred years. I mean... Do you really call that... Are they really distinctly Anglo-Saxon, though? I don't know. I'm just, thinking out loud. I think we're gonna have like a few. It would just be like a few sort of Baelish humans and half elves, kind of isolated, but it would mostly be the Enweric guys. That would be kind of doubled down in sort of that that southeastern island. That it's like this was controlled by them, and then these other Enweric guys showed up and took care of these islands. These islands were not as controlled by these areas were more this sort of like the Baelish humans, not these guys. So it's like. This is the first instance that these sorts came into contact with these. Okay. Alright, I think this is pretty solid. It is past 3 o'clock. I should probably go into bed pretty soon, too. I actually have to do something in the afternoon, so I can't afford to wake up at 5 p.m. I want to at least shower first. Alright, I mean, so this is not quite what I was thinking I was going to be doing today. But this is world building. If I let myself, I get too deep into the world building. Get a shorter, less melancholy song. Like I was trying to work on some. I mean, I've still got time. I just want to come up with a couple ideas so that I can kind of flush out this town a little bit of a backstory. I could say that he converted a few years before, but I also want something a little bit more interesting about him specifically. Him and his wife. The character that gave them the quest to fight the kobolds. A little bit interesting. How do we even get to the bigger things? I think I was thinking about where the priest would have came from, which was, yeah. I think he should be from one of this. He should be sort of the more Anglo-Saxon sort of deal. Alright, so I should come up with a more Anglo-Saxon sort of name for the character. Even the merging of Anglo-Saxons, like the Anglo-Saxons and Jutes coming together. Anglo-Saxon names are so Anglo-Saxon. It's like, and Elfbert, Wilfred, Oswald. Like, I couldn't imagine anyone with any of those names having hair on their head. Ocvantus? Is that kind of... That kind of strikes me as more Latin. Is that more of an Anglo-Saxon sort of name? It's like... Ethelbert, Aethelbert of Kent. His predecessor was Ermenric. Eor Menric. But his successor was his son Edbald. Just want to come up with a name of this guy first. I mean, yeah, it's fine, but I kind of nitpick this sort of stuff. Marthrinius? Is that a... I'm kind of nitpicky with this sort of stuff. I'm just gonna Google Anglo-Saxon names. Like Alfred. What a name, Alfred. I mean, even if they have a Latin origin, as long as it is Anglo-Saxon, right? Like more Anglo-Saxon sort of thing would be good. As long as it sounds good. Yeah. That's exactly what a lot of these seem like. Let's see. Selwyn? I feel like Shepherd would be a little bit on the nose. I'm really overthinking this too. I'm seeing perfectly fine names on this Anglo-Saxon baby name site. But I just I nitpick. I want to find something good, so the players don't laugh at it for no reason, or no, good reasons actually. Be kind of silly. Lucan? El Dorado. Precisely. I am El Dorado. Well, that's a good way to bring the characters out of it. Players out of it, like, are we going looking for gold now? What is this? Are you gold? I feel like I've already had a character in one of my campaigns named Lucan. That would be a good one. Mannix? M-A-N-N-I-X. It just means monk. And that's good, Manix. That will be the character's name. Now, this is the things that were right. These are the things that were kind of suggested that I will like to that I'll probably implement later. So yeah, very little. Okay, that's the name. Manix means monk, and it's like an Irish. The origin is Irish, but the name itself is Anglo-Saxon. So I think that's a good mix of the Elvish influence into the Anglo-Saxon sort of thing. El Rondo. Ad ar odl. Eldorado backwards. Ad or Odl. Odla. Alright, I think that's pretty solid for now. I'll probably be working on this more. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's now Thursday, isn't it? I might work on this more on Friday evening. Depending on how it would definitely be too late to start streaming anything else with this. So I may be back with this more on Friday. Even maybe tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see how I'm feeling. I may feel like working on this a lot. Because it's, what's that guy? That, fifth dimensional being from, like, the DC comics? They have to make him say his name backwards. And he goes back to his dimension. Hutzel Spitwick? I don't know. Anyway. Really glad to see all these new folks. And all these old folks. So follow the channel, see more of this and more of whatever else I feel like doing. Let's look at the map one more time. Take a look at all this. Alright, just kind of recap. Sort of the Remian holdout, a rump state of sort. The first Enweric invasion, their kingdoms. The second one, right there, into this. This taken from them, this taken from them, who are the Valish humans and half-elves. This is pretty much exclusively the elves. These are the new Enweric invasion. That is gunning for control of all the Isles. And this is the Dwarven domination over here. So until next time, thank you guys very much for joining me. Rock over London, rock on Chicago. I am Cyrock Omega, and have a nice day. Later.